My name is Debra. I'm Debra Heslin, and I am going to be a great grandmother in March. So I'm very excited about that. I have eight grandchildren, and one of my granddaughters is having a baby in March. So we're really excited about that. Like Alan, she was in the military, or she still is in the military. So we're very proud of her. But my journey to this realm of NLP and Heartmath, and I'm also a havening practitioner, and many other things as well, I was in corporate America. Even though I'm from Australia, I ended up becoming the general manager of John F. Kennedy Airport for a major airline for flight attendants, right? And all of a sudden I was like, how the hell did I end up working at this quote, quote, tiny little airport in New York and being the general manager? But what it did to me basically was got me a lot of anxiety and a lot of, I ended up having I was flying September 11th, and we all have our stories where we were that day. But shortly thereafter, I ended up having a panic attack. And from there, I ended up developing panic attacks. And here I am, the general manager. And one day I diverted a plane due to having a panic attack on a plane. And it was kind of embarrassing when they had to take me to the hospital. And here I am told at the hospital, there's nothing wrong with you. You had what's called a classic panic attack. So that led me to doing the work that I'm doing today, a whole series of other things. I became a master yoga teacher and meditation and Jack Canfield trainer, and the secret and all of those things, leading me to NLP, which I felt was the Mac Daddy, really the why behind the what of certain things that happen. However, I still felt there were some tools and techniques that I could have for my clients that were along the lines of breathing and different techniques that they could do to help them be in what we call a resilient, coherent, congruent state. And what would that be? And that led me to Heartmath. So have any of you heard about Heartmath or know anything about it? Or is this completely new to you, or anything you want to ask about that before we get started?
Totally new, but I have a extensive background in movement. I used to
awesome
Pilates world, like therapeutic Pilates. So this will be fun.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And I've also been a Pilates instructor. So thank you for sharing that. So yoga led me down the path to the body-mind connection, and what else could that, what else is out there for me to do, which ended up leading me to NLP. So we're all in the field of NLP, right? So I'm going to pretty much show you some cool things with Heartmath. I'm going to start the slides if I can find from here. What I'm going to take you through here is what's called, with Heartmath, the resilience advantage. And it's one of their programs that I teach regularly. And it's actually like a 10 to 12 hour course. But in this time that I'm here, I'm going to give you some great tools that you can take with you for your coaching clients or to use for yourself. And I don't know about you, I like to always make sure that I utilize the tools myself before I quote, quote, give them to my clients, so that I know how they work myself. So Heartmath and the resilience advantage is something I use regularly. And I'm going to go over one of the tools with you guys that it's a technique that you will really enjoy and you'll be able to use for your clients if you're all in the coaching field, along with understanding the connection between that and NLP. So I love to have fun with everything I do. And I think that's one of Alan's values too, because I've also a PACE coach, right? And I've done the core transformation with Tara, and I always remember on their slides, fun was at the top. So fun is one of my #1 values. So no matter what you're learning here today, just adopt a hat of having fun as we go through this process. They're actually beautiful learnings, so I ask you that you can enjoy them as we go through them. I'm going to take you through a very quick technique before I go through explaining some of the things. The foundation of Heartmath is what they call heart-focused breathing. and they call it an intelligent energy self-regulation technique. And the beauty about it is it doesn't matter what sort of breathing you do, so long as you're breathing. Okay, so you could do in and out, in through your nose, out through your mouth, in and out through your nose, in and out through your mouth. It doesn't matter, or you can even alternate with your nostrils. The fact is that you're going to focus your attention on the area of your heart. And you also don't have to close your eyes. So the beauty about it is, if you're driving and you suddenly feel you need to focus your attention to get in what we call a coherent state, or congruent as we call in NLP, I suggest it's a good idea to keep your eyes open as you're driving, right? So you can do this while you're driving or while you're having a conversation with your client, and they won't even recognize that, oh, this is an awkward moment or this is an uncomfortable moment, and I'm just going to focus my attention on the area of my heart. So before we start, I'm going to ask or invite you to either close your eyes or not. It's your choice. And just simply focus your attention in the area of your heart. So it's the area of your heart or your chest. And if you want to, if you feel comfortable, I invite you to place your hand on your heart. Remembering that if you're driving, of course, it's good to have both hands on the wheel. And then while you're focusing your attention in the area of your heart, I want you to breathe into your heart or your chest area. And while you're doing that, you want to make your inhale and your exhale a little slower and deeper than usual. So you might want to inhale for 5 seconds and then exhale for 5 seconds. You're finding a rhythm that's comfortable for you. And that's all you have to do, is focus your attention on the area of your heart, making your inhale and exhale a little slower and deeper than usual. Beautiful. Beautiful. And you can open your eyes if you have them closed. And the heart focused breathing with Heartmath, now it's interesting that they call it heart focused breathing from Heartmath, right? Is that actual technique right there is the foundation of all their techniques. It's focusing the attention on the area of your heart, making the inhale and exhale a little slower and deeper than usual. So the reason they do that is because of the heart-brain communication. The heart has its own complex nervous system. I'm not going to go down the path of all of the science behind it today. However, it's absolutely fascinating. And the heart sends more signals to the brain than the other way around. So when we connect to the heart rather than the brain that can be out of control at times, right? We all know that. We're connecting to the heart, which is filled with love, compassion, warmth, understanding, caring, integrity, all of those beautiful emotions. When we connect to that, it's going to calm down the nervous system in the brain. It's going to send it better signals than it is this sending to the heart, where we could then go into the unwanted or unnecessary emotions. So it's really a fascinating process. The heart was formed in the fetus at approximately 3 weeks of age, whereas the brain was much later on. So the heart was already formed, ready to send out those signals so much earlier than the actual brain itself. In the full training, I go through a lot more detail of that, but it's enough for you to understand that right now. I love this quote by Rear Admiral Robert Peary, and it was said over 100 years ago, and he was a great Arctic explorer. Very few people during their lifetime come anywhere near exhausting the resources dwelling inside them. There are deep wells of strength that are never used, right? So I know for me, especially when I was in my corporate America job running John F. Kennedy, and I had my own business for a long time prior to that, and now back in my business now with things that happen, and traumas and life happens all the time, that we often have to pull on those inner resources to cope with our everyday life to be happy and fulfilled, right? It's just, think about what we've been going through for the past almost 2 years now. It'll be 2 years in March, right? We're always pulling on our inner resources to be able to cope with everyday life to be happy and fulfilled. So science has proven that these practices that Heartmath teaches, and that I will show you a couple today, improve sleep, improve teamwork and morale, reduce stress and anxiety. So it's wonderful tools to be able to give your clients, along with, we know how to get rid of stress and anxiety, to be able to give them, to take with them, to be able to practice the breathing techniques when they're at home. And with things worthwhile, it takes effort and it takes practice. So we don't want to just do it one time. Perhaps we want to set our alarm clock to go at 10, 2, and 6. I'm going to do my breathing, or I'm going to walk to the bathroom if I'm at my job, and on my way there, or driving to where I'm going to the grocery store, I'm going to practice my heart-focused breathing while I'm on my journey there. So it takes effort and practice to get these skills down. And during that, we often, as I'm sure you guys know, because we are addicted to stimulation, we often get bored with things that we know. You know, I often, when I'm doing this in a room with people, I'll go, so who here knows how to breathe, right? Or who here is not breathing? We all know how to breathe, but it's doing it with mindfulness. So conscious awareness that we know what we're breathing into and how we're sending deliberate signals from our heart to our brain rather than from the brain to the heart. So there are 4 curses. I'm looking at you guys down here, and I know the camera is here. There are 4 curses to learning. The first one is, I already know that. I know how to breathe, right? I know how to breathe, or I know that it's good for me to take a few breaths. When I was a little girl growing up in Australia, I remember my mum saying to me, count to 10, Debra, count to 10, right? Well, you don't even need to do that anymore. All you need to do is count to 4, or simply breathe into your heart. That's how quickly we can come up into a state of coherence. So we want to recognize the first curse to learning is, I already know that. I already know how to breathe. I already know how to do some of these things. The second one is, if you already know that, are you doing it, and are you practicing it? Are you practicing it with deliberance, so that you're becoming more coherent, becoming more resilient, becoming more congruent? And then if you are practicing it, have you mastered it? That's the third one. So you want to say to yourself, good, I've been practicing and I do it 3 times a day. Have you mastered it, so that when you are in a situation where someone cuts you off in traffic, or someone says something that you're like really annoyed and frustrated about it, have you mastered yourself just automatically going into that state? The next one is, and this is my favorite, which is all NLP based, is, if you have mastered it, what is your evidence? What is your evidence procedure? As you look behind you in your past, where is your evidence that you have mastered it at some of the things that are happening in your life? You're more resilient to it. You're not so much, quote, quote, at the effect of the outside stimulation. So that's really, really key. Evidence procedure, right? That's what we look for in the PACE coaching. What is the evidence that your client has? It's the same thing here. So those are just thoughts to keep in mind as I take you through this. And what I love about Heartmath is that it is evidence-based. It's all science-based, evidence-based, research behind it. So it makes it very easy to let your clients know that it's important for them to do some of these exercises that are so simple, they're so simple. It's stuff we do automatically that they often don't necessarily want to do it because it's so easy, right? They think that's all I have to do. I feel so much different that I'm doing this kind of breathing. As I said, in the full training, you learn a lot more about the neurosciences, which I never thought I would love science and math. Now I know, Alan, math is yours, me too. I love science and math now because it helps me with, I have a lot of attorney clients and they're very analytical. I have a lot of doctor clients as well. So they're always wanting to go for the evidence, right? Show me this, show me that. So when you're able to provide the evidence behind the heart-brain stuff, they really enjoy it. So Heartmath is used in major hospitals throughout the world and thousands of healthcare professionals throughout the world. Many businesses, police, fire, corrections, military, schools, universities, and nonprofits all over the world. Professional athletes and Olympic teams to enhance their performance, and the special forces in the military as well. So I just figured I would show you that. This is just a very high level of some of the research that's been done by Heartmath and the outside sources, such as, you know, the American Journal of Cardiology, Harvard Business Review, etc., which I love because it helps me when I'm talking to my clients that are like, well, what's the purpose of me breathing and breathing into my heart, right? And you're able to say, well, Harvard Business Review and the American Journal of Cardiology, you're able to actually give some of these citations. And we know that stress is the #1 visitor to doctors in the world, right? More people are affected by stress and causing other illnesses in them, including myself, right? Is linked to just so many things. So the next thing I want to show you very quickly is resilience. Resilience is the ability to overcome challenges, and when we're overcoming the challenges, having the energy to push through. Like if you look at the battery up here, we want to be charged, not low or depleted, right? So resilience is the ability to be able to push through with enough energy after it so that we're not completely depleted. And resilience means perseverance or grit. I know that I needed that when I was in corporate America. I would go home sometimes at the end of my day, working there, completely depleted, taking home that work with me in my relationship with my husband. I don't even know why he chose to marry me during that time, because I was so depleted of my own energy that when I came home, I carried it with me, right? So then our conversations, he's trying to bring me up while I'm ending up depleting him. So there's no energy at all, right? And that's what happens to most people. Now I go to corporations to help them with this stuff because I've lived it and I know how depleted they are when they get home at the end of the day. So Heartmath defines resilience as the capacity to prepare for, recover from, and adapt in the face of stress, challenge, or adversity. And you can learn to build your resilience capacity and sustain your energy, just as I said on the previous slide, by keeping your energy charged so that when circumstances happen that can be out of your control, which we talk about in cause and effect in NLP, right? Things can happen, but it's how we end up responding to that. Are we going to be at the effect of it? Or are we going to, no matter what is happening, be at cause and find a way to make things work, right? Or find our way out of whatever it is that's going on. So within Heartmath, they call it the 4 domains of resilience, right? There's the mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical. Now, this is talked about in a lot of other realms as well. I'm also a havening practitioner. They talk about it in there, how it affects it. I know in Huna, they talk about those elements as well. So in yoga, we also talk about it as well, and on how it can affect the 4 domains. With Heartmath, there is at the center what we call a state of coherence. In NLP, we call it congruence. How do we get to be congruent, right? Or resilient. But with Heartmath, they call it, we want to find that state of coherence. And coherence here means, it doesn't mean to say you've had a few drinks and you're incoherent, right? It means you're able to be coherent no matter what is going on and be resilient in that process. So if you look on these slides in the 4 realms, there's one word, and I'll underline it so you can see it easily, that is in all of them, and it's called flexibility, right? In NLP, what is one of the presuppositions of NLP, right? The person or the system with the most flexibility controls the system, right? So in other words, how Heartmath calls this is they want you and your client that you're working with to have flexibility in all 4 domains. Okay, so in other words, and I'll also explain it to you like this. If you look at the mental realm, for instance, and our attention span, our ability to focus, etc., but our thoughts are going, our mental thoughts are going. So let me just explain it like this so I can show you on the how you can combine this with NLP. So this is our guy, right? And through our external world, our 3-dimensional world, that in not the quantum physics world, the 3-dimensional world, this is how we process everything, right? Through our visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, and gustatory as it comes in. So as it comes in, the way that Heartmath defines it, it first is energy coming in, right? This is all energy. However we decide it coming in and we filter it, etc., it then affects the mental. What do we say about it? Oh my God, this sucks. Oh my God, that's amazing, right? Whatever we mentally say then goes to our emotions, right? So with our emotions, then comes the spiritual, and the way that Heartmath defines that, the spiritual realm, it can be lots of things, such as you can breathe for spirituality, you could pray, you could meditate. There's lots of things, but to define this high level, high chunk for you, they define it as our judgments. So this is coming in, we see something or we hear something, we're doing it throughout, and we delete, distort, and generalize. You guys know all that already. And then we label it, we give it a mental whatever. This sucks, right? That puts us in an emotional state of sucking. Ugh, right? Our body responds that way. So our judgments are, think about this on the NLP realm, how could they do that to me? What's the matter with them? Or what's the matter with me? I'm not as good as they are, right? So that's the 3 realms here that it affects as it comes in through our 3-dimensional world. Then it lands in the physical body, which is the last piece that we feel it in the end. That's how we get sick. That's how we create the what we call the dis-ease, right? The unease. And we want to be, back to you, Alan, right? At ease. right? That's where we want to be. So Heartmath relies heavily on the 4 domains of resilience, which are the physical, the emotional, the mental, and the spiritual. And we as human beings, and for those of you that study other realms, spiritual beings having this human experience, right? And sometimes the human experience can suck. We all know that we go through different emotions. Our emotions drive us. We are emotional beings. So if we're able to change what comes in here, from this to this, go back to, we're here and we're realizing where we're going, and then we change it to a different thought and we bring it back to here, we can then have less judgments of ourselves and others, and our physical being is going to be more at ease. Okay, so their tools and techniques teach you how to do that. I want to show you this, this quick little video. It's only a minute. And as you watch it, I want you to notice how you feel. Okay? Let me know if you can hear the sound. Alan, I'll get you to give me a thumbs up.
It's not good sound, Deb.
Whoops. Okay. So, did anybody notice what it said at the end of the movie? Yes, go ahead. And open up your mics. What did it say at the end of the movie? Did anybody see?
You see the world.
You see the world through how you feel.
Correct. Exactly. So what were you experiencing in the first part of the movie with the soundtrack? What were you experiencing? You can even type it in the chat, or you can say it out loud. It's all fun.
I find that music uplifting, inspirational.
The first part of the movie or the second?
Well, it was hard. It was hard. The sound wasn't great for me, so that's hard. I maybe didn't catch the beginning.
Okay, all righty. So anybody, thank you though, but your second part, that was exactly right for the second part. Anybody want to comment on the soundtrack for the first part?
I couldn't hear the soundtrack for the first part, and without the sound, I felt more anxious because I didn't really understand what was going on. And with the music, it was more hopeful and adventurous, like there was wonder.
Yeah.
I thought.
Yeah. So I wonder if I should try and get the sound to go a little better, because it makes an impact. But thank you very much for that. Let me just see if I can change I'll stop the share for a second and change my sound on my computer. I think it's here. Audio. So if you don't mind, I'm going to play it again because it makes a difference with the soundtrack that we're hearing coming into us, how it affects our internal world. Okay, so let me just do that again for you guys. Oops. I'll just stop that for a second. So were you able to hear it a little better that time? Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you notice the difference between the soundtrack in the first part and then the soundtrack in the second? So how did the soundtrack make you feel in the first part?
Your mic has got really quiet, Deborah.
Just now?
Yeah, since you played the movie, there's a
Okay, let me fix it again then. Okay, sorry. All right, can you hear it now?
perfect. Perfect.
All right, sorry about that.
Yep, the soundtrack in I would, as an NLP person, I'd say the soundtrack in the first section actually contributed to the 7 plus or minus 2 chunks of information.
Mhm.
The soundtrack in the second one, because it's Pachelbel and it's just playing in the background, my brain didn't have to focus on it. I
Yeah.
went from 9 chunks of information down to 5, and then it became quite pleasant just to connect to the imagery.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you, Alan. Yeah. Anyone else want to just say something? How they noticed the difference between the soundtrack from one to the other?
I was so anxious, like I almost threw up, and I have like creepies all over my body. I'm really sensitive to music.
Mm-hmm.
And with the second one, obviously I love like the classical soundtrack, but I just wanted to close my eyes. Like even for that one, the anxiety and the tension went down, but even still with the video, I want to see flow. I want to see beauty. I like rom-coms because, you know, people kiss and hug and they run through flowers and fields.
Yeah.
Whereas this was just like such a strong message. And I don't like filling my mind with that. It doesn't make me happy. So I really wish I would have just seen like that love that made my heart melt.
Yeah. But isn't it so interesting? See what the soundtrack and that could actually do and cause, right? And create inside Larissa, right? Because of the emotion, we are emotional beings. So therefore the soundtrack, whatever is going on out here, becomes our emotional soundtrack on the inside. That's how it affects us on the inside. And this is all the stuff that Heartmath has done to realize, how do we get ourselves back to a state of coherence when that can affect Larissa in one way, Alan in a different way, but it affects us, the emotional soundtrack outside, whatever is, doesn't mean to say the auditory, we're just auditory. I'm just saying it's all that noise out there, the pictures, the sounds, the smells, the taste, the stimulation, all that noise that's going on out there affects our internal world, our emotional world, and we're emotional beings. So even hearing what Larissa said, the emotional impact it had on her, right? Was like, that was just too much. I'd rather see the flowers and rather see the hugs, and right? That's what happens to us all the time. All the time. And that was only a minute. And it was the same movie. If the sound just affected you, it was exactly the same movie, right? The same movie. So what I find that is really interesting. Our perceptions, how we perceive, right? NLP, perception is projection, how we perceive, how we interact. Can affect our decisions. It has an effect on the quality of our day, and it significantly affects our life in general, affects our choices, affects the things that we end up doing, saying, behaving, etc., etc. So let me bring back the slides. Hope I'm good for time. I won't be forever, Alan, don't worry. So that was what this slide is about. The emotional soundtrack affects our emotional soundtrack on the inside with all the noise that's happening on the outside. We also have depleting and renewing emotions. You guys know that because you're all trained in NLP. And emotions either drain us, right? Or they renew us. They either drain us, they're depleting us, or they're renewing us. So what emotion we experience is what sets in motion a cascade, an effect, or a cause, right, depending on which way we take in the emotional, the emotions in motion. They're what motivate us. They are what determine our life work. They what provide quality and quantity in our life for us. So here are some depleting emotions. The slide kind of says it itself, some culprits for depleting emotions. They can be attitudes and feelings, impatience, fear, anxiety. And this part of the slide, they can result in reduced muscle mass, brain cell death, impaired memory, accelerated aging, impaired mental function, and diminished performance. So I'll tell you a quick story here. My daughter, my youngest daughter, is actually moving from Boston up to Nashville, and she's not very happy about it. So she's going through a lot of different emotions, the fact that they're moving, taking the kids out of school, you know, stuff, so to speak. So she messages me and her two sisters today, and she says, "Mom, I'm so stressed that today I tried to get in 2 cars at the supermarket that were not mine," right? And although it sounds funny, these are the things that we do because our brain is over here, right? While our body is doing something that is focusing on something completely different, because we're focused on all the stress and the anxiety of what it is that's going on. And these are the things that it causes. I'll tell you, when I was working at JetBlue, when I was the general manager of John F. Kennedy, I had two funny things that happened to me. They're not funny. I can laugh now that I'm on this path. Riddled with stress, I'll tell you the 2 things. I go into my parking lot at Forest Hills, where I had my parking spot for, you know, the work that I did. And as I'm backing out, and I had a little car, guys, as I'm backing out, I took the whole right side with the pole, right? Because I was stressed. I backed in, decided I better go the other way, took out the whole left side of my car. Right? I pulled the car back in, I sat in the car and I sobbed. And I said, this is crazy. I can't even back out of a parking spot because I'm so riddled with stress. Impaired mental function, right? Impaired mental function. Then another time I was in our apartment in New York, and I know I'm from Australia, but I've been here for 40 years. So I go down to my car in the parking lot at our apartment, and I'm sitting in the passenger seat waiting for somebody to drive me. And I was the driver, and I sat there for 20 minutes. And it was, I said, this is crazy. I'm like losing my mental function. You know, that's basically what stress ends up doing to us, our depleting emotions. So renewing emotions, the flip side of the coin, increase longevity, increase resilience to adversity, improve memory, improve problem solving, increased intuition and creativity, improve job performance and achievement. Like, I wished I had had some of these tools when I was in the airline industry. So that's the beauty. So the renewing emotions come with, the depleting emotions is usually motivated by cortisol. Now, cortisol is not a bad thing. I won't go into great details about all that, but it's not a bad thing. We actually wake up with cortisol in our system in the morning. It's that thing that gets us out of bed and gets us going. We just don't want to keep it in our body for extended periods of time. But the renewing emotions provide 1,400 biochemicals in our system. It's like a cocktail of good hormones to provide us with increased longevity, resilience, all of these things that I said. So it gives us good reason to want to get on the renewing emotion side. And how do we do that? We do it with our tools and techniques from NLP. But what Heartmath teaches us is to first get us into that resilient state of coherence through these different breathing techniques. All right, this is Heartmath's signature slide. You can go on the internet and find it pretty much everywhere. Dr. Joe Dispenza actually talks a lot about this slide when he when he talks about Heartmath. Tony Robbins, believe it or not, now teaches Heartmath breathing at his Date with Destiny. And I did it last year. And I was like, whoa, Tony is doing Heartmath now too, because they're recognizing the benefits of these simple techniques and what the signals that the heart sends out. So what's great about this is incoherency in the heart's rhythms look like this. They're scattered and they're all over the place, right? They're not doing any good. And this is what it would look like, incoherence, which would be perhaps frustration, annoyance, anger, hurt, sadness. It can be all of these that will look like this in the heart's rhythms. Coherence, this is what coherence rhythms look like. Very smooth up and down. And I have the machines that I get my clients to use, that if I have time, I'll show you at the end. And when they come to my office, mostly I see people by Zoom now, but they put it on and they breathe and they're like, they don't want to leave until they get themselves into a coherent rhythm. They're like, no, I'm going to get my heart. And so they know what it feels like to be healthier and to regulate and self-regulate themselves. So it's really quite amazing. So the last little thing we're going to do together is, it's one of my favorite techniques with Heartmath. It's called the Depletion to Renewal grid. And I think I sent that to you, Alan, if you're able to put it in the chat to share with everybody.
Did you email it to me, Deb?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll put it in.
And because we're going to go around this grid together. When everybody has it, I'll take it off the screen and I'll use my little board over here to explain it. So what I love how Heartmath explains the emotions to us is that emotions are normal, natural, and necessary. They're the 3 N's. It is not possible to constantly feel happy all the time. It's not constantly, I don't know about you, but I've never known anybody to laugh and never stop. Start laughing and never stop, right? Same thing with crying. Has anybody ever started crying and never stopped, right? They haven't. So we're going to go through hundreds and hundreds of different emotions during the day. And we want to recognize which ones are renewing and uplifting and the ones that are depleting. And like, if you think about what we as human beings, or as I will always say, the spiritual being having this human experience, are going to experience tons and tons of different emotions. So as you guys know, because you've all done NLP, us human beings are given the opportunity of choice, or the gift of choice. So thinking about cause and effect, right? Cause and effect, this comes in, oh my goodness, I'm now at I now have an awareness that I could be at the effect of this and everything sucks and woe is me, even though the situation might not be that great. Or in that awareness, that moment, that space when we take that breath, I now have a choice that, okay, this happened. What would I like to choose and do and create instead, now that I know this, right? So the gift that we're given as human beings is that moment to make a choice, to make that choice. So do I want to stay on the effect side, or do I want to go at cause? So knowing that emotions are normal, natural, and necessary, we're going to feel them during the day. We want to recognize the different ones that we do feel. So when you look at the grid, up the top is the sympathetic heart rate, and they're depleting or renewing, right? And on the bottom left is the parasympathetic, which is the low heart rate. It doesn't always mean when you're in the parasympathetic low heart rate that it's necessarily P for peace. I found this interesting when I learned this. And why is that? Sadness, depression. You can be in a low heart rate. However, it's a depleting emotion. It's still draining your energy. Okay, so we want to recognize what high emotions are depleting and renewing, and what low emotions are renewing and depleting. So if we look at the grid and we start with the depleting emotions on the high side, what do you think some high depleting emotions would be? And you guys can write them in your own little box so you can add to them. What do you think some high depleting emotions would be?
Rage.
Come on. Rage, exactly. Open up your mics, guys. You know what they are. Rage. What else?
Terror.
What was it?
Terror. Fear.
Terror, yeah. Terror, yeah. Fear, yeah. I see fear in the chat box. Yeah. What else?
Anger.
Anger, yes.
Frustration.
Yeah, frustration.
Laura posted disgust.
Disgust, yeah. So disgust, I love that you said that one, because disgust could be high depleting, or it could be, oh God, I'm disgusted, right? I'm disgusted. It could be low, it doesn't matter. It's whatever it is for you or whatever it is for your client. I give my clients this to carry around with them so that when they recognize what emotion they're having, they can see if it's on their grid or they can put another one on their grid, right? So, and I'll tell you about that in a second. So let's go to low depleting. What are some low depleting emotions?
Doubt.
Doubt?
Doubt.
Yes, absolutely. Sadness? Yeah, absolutely.
Depression.
Yeah,
Anxiety.
anxiety, that can be low depleting or high depleting. Yes, right? Could be either or. There's no right, wrong. It's wherever you feel it is for you is exactly where it would be. I know I felt both with anxiety, high depleting, and I felt low depleting, right? Oh God, I'm anxious. Or like, oh my God, I'm so anxious about that, right? Yeah.
Despair.
Okay. Despair, yeah.
Grief.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Would
Yeah.
shame be on low?
100%. Shame can be here. It could be up here, depending on what happened, right? So they can be in both. It's where the person is feeling it in that moment. So now we're going to move over to the low renewing. What would be some low renewing emotions?
Calm.
Yep. Yep.
Content.
Content. Yep.
Satisfied.
Satisfied. Yeah.
Grateful.
Yep.
Certain.
Certain. Yeah. How about bliss? All right. What about high renewing? What would be some high renewing?
Excited.
Yeah. Excited. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Joy.
Joy. Joy, by the way, guys, joy is the number one emotion to really fill your bucket with.
Mm.
It's very, very important to fill your bucket with joy. What else?
Humor.
Humor, yes.
Love.
Pride.
Yes, good. Love. What else? What did I miss?
What is feeling proud of yourself? That
Proud.
feeling.
Yeah, proud.
Encouraged.
Yeah.
Inspired.
Inspired. What about ecstasy? Like, yes, I'm ecstatic.
Yeah.
It can be ecstatic state, right?
Euphoric.
Euphoric. Yeah.
Right. I'm joking. I'm joking.
I love that. Don't get me laughing because I'm still recovering from my bronchitis. It's like I'll go into a breathing attack. So this gives you an outline of, and we could go on and on and on and on, right? So when I first started this, I kept a list in my pocketbook with me, and every now and then I would go, it's the little things that we do. It's kind of, what are we pretending not to know? I would go, ooh, what was that emotion? Yeah, that was anger, right? And I go, do I have anger on my list? I do, right? So I would look to see that I had my emotions written down on my sheet, right? And then I was able to, of course, explain it to my clients. What Heartmath does is we want to recognize that it is a little weird to go from rage to joy. Just like that. They might label that something, right? Some form of, you know, mental illness, if we or terror to being excited, right? It's a little hard to go from left to right. It might be easier to go from here to here, or even from rage to being grateful. It might be easier to do that. But what Heartmath teaches us is to find that state of coherence. And they call that the sun, the center. The sun sends its rays to all over, right? So in order to get back to center, we always start with the heart-focused breathing. If we're feeling the rage, let me breathe into my heart, making my inhale and exhale a little slower and deeper than usual. Maybe inhale for 5, right? Whatever it is, so that it starts lowering it down. And this is how you teach your clients. And then I'll teach you another technique that you will bring in. They will bring in one of the emotions from the right side of the grid and breathe that into their heart.
Mm.
So they look at their grid, you look at your grid, and you say to them, what emotion would you like to bring in? Oh, I'd like to bring in calm. Okay, is there another one you'd like to bring in too? Oh yeah, I'd like to bring in joy. So then what they do is you get them to focus their attention. So focus your attention on the area of your heart. Make your inhale and exhale a little slower and deeper than usual. And then make a sincere attempt to bring in calm and joy into your heart. Inhale and exhale, right? So that's how you get them to hear, to eventually move them to the right side of the grid. All right, that's just one little technique. But I want to ask you a question, looking at this, and you can put it in the chat or you can say it out loud for yourself. Which side of the grid do you find yourself spending more time on in the last week?
in the last 66 years, always above the middle line.
Oh, good. So it goes from here to here, both sides.
Well, to ask Tara, do I ever go below the line, Tara? She's gone.
She's you right?
I'm not gone. I heard you.
Yeah.
Never below the line.
I've gone to depression. I've gone to anxiety.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right after I get depressed, I get angry in about 30 seconds. So.
Yeah. So it's knowing where we spend more time, right? We're going to be in all over the grid because that's what we do as human beings. So we want to give ourselves permission. We just don't want to hang out here.
Yeah.
We don't want to hang out here. Yeah.
Where do things like, so we experience doubt. And for me, doubt is a call to action. What am I missing? So I start thinking. I start doing literally scenario building in my head. So if I feel doubt, I've missed a scenario. Where does that go in the grid? Is that moving into the center?
If you're thinking about it and it's depleting you, it goes on one side for you here. You want to get yourself into a state of coherence to get here. So you'll do the heart focus breathing something in from this side of the grid. And then if you have doubt, you have tools and techniques to work on doubt because you're an NLP trainer, right? Right? What are you doubting? You know, so then you can set goals. And there's other tools with Heartmath, of course, that we do too. But I use a lot of my NLP tools here. First, I want to get them into a coherent state. This is stuff they can do themselves when they're at home. Oh, I'm on this side of the grid. I'm hanging out here. How do I get back to center? And I want to be calm. Okay. So now for me to be calm, sometimes I like to do an aerobics exercise. It actually depletes my energies that I have. There's lots of things that they could do. If you have doubt about something, what specifically is it you have doubt about, right? First you want to get into a coherent state so we're not in these emotions. Did I answer?
In NLP, of course, we talk about the pattern interrupt.
Sure.
Right, to interrupt the pattern. When I'm listening to you talk, this sounds like
the pattern
over time, the pattern interrupt becomes the new behavior.
100%. So yeah, so in the other part of Heartmath as it goes down, they call it it is the pattern interrupt. I can't think of the actual word on the tip of my tongue right now. It's a new baseline. It's a new baseline. So we're developing a new baseline by, instead of always defaulting, because we have patterns, that's why we want to interrupt those patterns, our patterns of thinking based on the external coming in. We filter, we delete, distort, and generalize. We end up behaving, our attitude and our behaviors with the same result, same outcome every single time. So we're developing a different baseline by getting ourselves to center to then go to here. What do we want here? And so it changes our baseline instead of always defaulting to the depleting emotions. Always going to anger. I always get enraged. I always get annoyed, right? Yeah.
This also explains the phenomenon as an NLP trainer where we teach people to anchor. Right,
Yes.
but you're in a really negative state, and as if you're going to fire your anchor and suddenly jump all the way over there.
Yeah.
So instead, we teach break state, move into a calm state, and then fire your resource. You have to go. There has to be a process. You can't go from way over here to way over there with one.
No, it's like exactly. It's like chaining anchors. How do you go from procrastination to motivation in one step? No. It's very difficult. Correct. So you're building, you're establishing what Heartmath calls as a new baseline, a new resource anchor. You're getting to that point that your mind, your neurology will go there instead of going there. Yeah. So I have all my clients do breathing. I start off my coaching sessions with the Heartmath breathing. And then they leave with an emotion that they want to do to bring into their heart, for the next week or so, or whatever they want to do with it. They'll do it when they go to meetings. I teach them, just lots of different tools. Do you want me to show you very quickly how the machine works, or do you want to have any questions for me, or?
Just wrap up with the machine. What machine are you going to show us, Deb? And then we'll go to Q&A. We'll let everybody grill you.
There's so much more, but I wanted to just give you a high level. So this is one of the machines, right? It's like a heart monitor. So the client would put this on their ear, or you put it on your ear. And there's lots of different tools and techniques in this, and you can clip this part to your shirt. And then you would just press start. And it's calibrating. And it will start to read the rhythms of my heart rate variability, which is up here. So right now, trust me, it's not in those good realms right now because I'm talking and I'm moving around, but I would be able to get it once it starts into a coherent state through my breath. And so your clients will watch. We'll just let it analyze me, and then I'll just start to do some breathing and you'll watch it shift. I won't stay too long. Right now I'm 67%. I just thought about something and look, it dropped into the red. Isn't that wild?
I wanted to know who you are thinking about, Debra.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. But anyway, so you would have to be breathing into your heart, and you focus on, I'm going to stop this one because I want to show you a couple of the other different ones that there is. So I'll get my clients to sit here and have a big projection TV behind me, and they will watch it, and they don't even want to move. No, wait. And they'll be breathing in and out of their heart. So then what they do, I get them to anchor it in so that they know what it feels like when they are coherent, when they are in a resilient state. So they don't have to purchase these machines. They can feel it in their body by recognizing where they're at in that moment. So it's really a ton of fun. I use this one when I go into corporate offices and I have a demonstration come up. And then when they've gone through the whole series of what I'm teaching them, they then do the heart-focused breathing, and they see the difference in them from practicing. So it's really cool, right? So would you guys like to do the breathing with me for a second with one of these and just notice the difference of how you feel when you bring in a positive renewing emotion into your heart? Okay.
Yes.
So I invite you, in Heartmath, I always ask the question, because of trauma, Alan will appreciate this, they invite you. They don't tell you close your eyes, they invite you. So it's kind of Ericksonian of like, I invite you to close your eyes. And you may also place your hand on your heart if you choose. And then breathe into your heart or your chest area, making your inhale and your exhale a little slower and deeper than usual. Maybe it's 5 seconds inhaling and 5 seconds exhaling, whatever rhythm works for you. And then you want to make a sincere attempt to bring in a regenerative, renewing feeling, such as joy, appreciation, care, calm. Bring it into your heart. Whatever you choose to bring in, bring into your heart. Keep your focus on your heart or your chest area. Remember to make your inhale and exhale a little slower and a little deeper than usual. Breathe in your regenerative, renewing feeling. Breathe it into your heart. You can hold on to that regenerative, renewing feeling for as long as you want. And you can also lock it in place. Knowing that it's locked in place, even when you choose to open your eyes, it will be there. Good. Good. So you notice the difference just in like 60 seconds of the breathing, right? It's really beautiful. So any questions? I'm happy to take them.
Turn on your mics, ask Debra lots of questions.
Didn't want to open my eyes. Yeah, I get you, Larissa. I do. It's very peaceful. It's very calming. It's very soothing. I do it at night before I go to sleep. I decide what emotion I want to go to sleep with and start my day off, right? Morning routine, Alan. Yeah, morning routine. I do my heart focused breathing.
I would imagine this is really helpful for clients who are disconnected and have a difficult time naming their emotions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. They love it because they have their little grid with them. They realize that, you know, and I also tell them, I go, we don't see what's going on inside our internal world, but your heart is doing all this work for you. It's doing, you know, and the rest of your body, right? So we want to send it signals. So it's going to be in a coherent state to be able to optimize for you, to be the best version of you. Yeah.
So you mentioned that you have your clients do breathing when they come in, and then you send them with the sheet and focus on the emotion when they exit. How else do you incorporate this with like a pace breakthrough?
So I do it as tasking. So I do it as tasking. So if they're having, even when they first come in, right, when somebody comes into my office or even on Zoom, I start off every call with heart focused breathing. Yeah, I started off that way so that this way they're already coming into a state that's going to get results instead of how they might be coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Unless you're coaching high performance people solely, most of us, our clients cannot regulate. When we first meet them, one of the biggest hurdles they have is emotional regulation. And that's such a beautiful, whatever that was, 60, 90, 120 seconds to demonstrate the ability to regulate self-control. was
Yeah.
spectacular.
Yeah.
I would task it as an exercise of self-control for sure.
Yeah.
I'm going to try this out. I'm going to get more literature from you, Debra, because I use James Nestor, the 7-second breathing, to establish rapport. This would be a beautiful one too, because we're matching physiology, matching breathing
100%.
rate. It's
Yeah.
just instant karma, instant rapport.
Exactly. And it gives them some variety. So they have Heartmath has a whole, a lot of the stuff ties in with NLP because some of the tools and techniques correlate with NLP, such as perceptual positions and how you're doing stuff with your breathing to get different perceptions on what's really going on in certain things. So that's what I love about it, because you can incorporate stuff with what you already know, and you can just add tools and you can go, you know what, that one's not quite getting them right now. Let me pull from this bucket. I always joke with my students that I used to have a warehouse of reasons and excuses. Right now, I like to have I have a warehouse of tools and techniques that I like to pull from, so that I can go, okay, let me do this one with them today. Let me do this with them. Well, let me add this. I still have my shoebox of reasons and excuses just in case I need one. But yeah.
Mm.
I'll share something else with you, and then Laura, I see you were going to ask something. I have a grandson that has stutters. So I taught him, this is a funny story. At that time, he was 3.5, he's now 7. I had a meditation with breathing into the heart on my website. It's not there anymore, but I had it there. And my son-in-law played it to him every night. And I went to visit him in Boston, and he says to me, Nanny, this lady, she goes, into my heart. And I said, she does? And I said, who is that lady? He says, I don't know her name, but she does the breathing. And it was me. He didn't know that it was me, but it helped him with his stuttering, because he was able to breathe into his heart and just slow his words down.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. What was that, Tanya? Chinese medicine, the heart and tongue, is it? Tongue are connected. I love that. Tongue, yeah. I love that. Yeah. And think about what's the other emotions the heart has if we're not connected with these. We don't want our heart to be filled with rage and anger, right? No, it's not meant to be. And the chakras from here moving upward, right into our higher realm, we want this to connect with this. Yeah. Like in the full training, I talk about the intuitions, the different intuitions of how Heartmath has done their studies, and you see the studies, it's fascinating of the 3 different realms of intuition and how you can tap into it, how you can go into, like we can do with rapport and NLP, but how you can start the rhythms of your heart, and you breathe into your heart, and you can get people coherent next to you. Their heart rhythms will go coherent as well, because you're sending off those signals. It's not an aura, it's actual energetic signal. We're energy. For those of you who have done master practitioner, right? Quantum physics, we're energy. So it's fascinating. It's fascinating.
I've taken Deb's course, guys, and it works so well. It's just so complementary to everything that we do. And so many of the things that Deb's saying, the different elements that she talks about in the actual training. I mean, all of them, right, Deb? I mean, all of them.
Yeah, I didn't even see you there, Tara.
Yeah. So it's a really lovely together. It works so beautifully with everything that we do.
Yeah, they're all complementary. Like today, I was saying when I first came on, I did core transformation with somebody. It was with another trainer that I'm coaching, and she was like, all of her. I have it here, and I won't say what they are, but there were like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 levels till she got to her core, right? I was, and I left her with heart focused breathing.
Right?
Breathing,
Yeah, of course.
and breathing
You know
those different levels into her heart,
Yeah.
right? So you can
Yeah.
combine, and it's beautiful.
You can do, I noticed something interesting when people start a core transformation, it may be anywhere in their body. And one of two things happens after they go into the core state. Either it may just sort of dissolve and it just sort of disappears and becomes awareness. But more often people will say it's moved into my heart, right? And they've got their hands right here. And you know what's happening. I mean, energetically, you know exactly what has happened, and people just sense it so easily, so naturally. And it's
amazing. It's all of this healing, beautiful work, starting with NLP and, you know, and the pace and the core transformation and havening and Heartmath and Huna and all of yoga, all of these beautiful things is helping not only yourself, right? Because we can't give away what we don't own, but it's helping your client reach their goals and what they want to get faster.
Laura asked, was it Laura that asked, how would you use this in a pace breakthrough? I think it was Laura.
Mhm.
But it's interesting as you listen to it, every time you have a person in position 2 or 3 and they're getting learnings, you're clearing an emotion that is on the left side of Deb's table. And we clear the big 5, which are all, even though sadness is on there, that at the intensity that we're clearing sadness with the client initially, they're probably at the middle or higher. And as they get their learnings, they're actually moving over to the blue. Because the learnings inevitably, you know, I am excited, I am love, I am calm, I am cared for, I am whatever. And so, and we witness it in the physiology of our clients when we're working with them, right? So this is, and so this is such a beautiful tool. And like Tara and Debra were talking about, when people are moving to their core states, the intended outcomes can all be plotted on that grid as well. Are they energetic positive states or quiet energetic states? Yeah, it's quite a beautiful lens to look at NLP. I like, and the Heartmath people are rigorously scientific. Joe Dispenza is rigorously scientific, and my passion is to look for science. Why does what we do work when it works? When I see a table like the one Deb has presented to us, and I go, holy cow. When I'm clearing fear with a client or rage with a client, we're starting in the top left. And they get into this state way over to the right at the end of it. Now we're imprinting their timeline. And what a great tool just to have them breathe into it at the end of it then. Future paced. I'm becoming a zealot for future pacing as part of Lisa Feldman Barrett's work. So imagine taking a person out into the future now and having them breathe into these new emotional states.
Love that.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is cool, Deb. This is cool.
And this is one tool, you know. I love this tool. It's a fabulous tool. It's the depletion to renewal grid, which you have the worksheet, you know, because if you look at the grid, and I went over it a little bit, on the left-hand side with the depleting emotions, right? There's cortisol. Now, cortisol is not bad, except if it stays in your body too long. And what happens is it does. These emotions keeps the cortisol in your body, and it's toxic and it's a poison. It's not good for you. So people think cortisol is bad. It's not. We have it as soon as we wake up in the morning. Cortisol is in your system to get you out of bed, right? It's wonderful. That's why your morning routine should include a full bottle of water, not coffee. You can have your coffee, have your water first, right? Because of the cortisol. It's the greatest. Then the right side of the grid is all the DHEA, the cocktail of, you know, all the good stuff. You can't, even if you take those medications and antidepressants, you're not going to get it the same as you can from euphoria, joy, humor, love. You can produce it yourself. So you want to get back to center, to here. And then, of course, there's, you know, it's all hormonal. It's all hormonal. So we're producing these hormones naturally when we go into these states. That's why there's laughing yoga. Have you ever watched laughing yoga? I sometimes have my clients watch that because it's so ridiculous. You've got to laugh, you know?
If anybody's interested in a very detailed description of the two sides of Deb's graph, if you go on to Gaia, the Gaia channel, and Joe Dispenza's 13-part series where he's talking about the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system and the chemical cascades, the anabolic nature of the parasympathetic and the cannibalistic nature of the sympathetic. If you're that person who wants more science and more details and more knowledge, Joe Dispenza's, I think it's the 4th episode out of 13, but yeah, it absolutely corroborates what Deb's saying here right now.
And I go over that in the full training too, because there's a lot of the science and a lot of the understanding, and there's like, you know, the scientists that really started it all has people hooked up with the machines in schools, you know, with the students hooked up with them in schools, and what the difference of what happens with students that have done these practices. And so all the science is incredible. It's incredible. It comes with a workbook of a lot of citations and that on it as well.
What was the piece of equipment that you hooked up to your ear? What was that
it's
called?
It's called an M-Wave. It's the Heartmath M-Wave. Let me unplug it. Show you. Looks like this. Yeah. It's just a little thing, but it's a whole system that pops up on the screen. And then there's another one that you can get too, which is this one, which people can have themselves individually, and it goes with your iPhone. So you can actually pace yourself as well. I sell them, but it's not worth it for me to sell them, if you know what I'm saying. It's more work than it is anything else.
Yeah.
You can get a discount through me if you want them.
If you take the Heartmath course, can you buy those, or can you buy
Yes.
them?
Yeah, you can buy them. You can get a discount through me from them. I get a discount from them, which I pass over to my students. But they're not. Go ahead.
Can you put your contact information in the chat room for everybody, please?
Yes, I will. And I have I'll show you my last slide, actually, that'll put it on there. I'm running a course in, that's it there, in January. It's on 2 Saturdays, 2 5-hour Saturdays. And for PACE, there's 50% off. So it's not expensive either. It's like,
so you see that, guys, for you guys who are here tonight, she's giving you a 50% discount on the Heartmath training. And you use PACE 50 at the checkout, all capitalized. Yeah. Thank you, Debra, for that. That's incredible.
Yeah, you're welcome. So it's about 10 hours total. You get a great workbook with it, with everything outlined, all the different techniques and resources. There's all the resources you can, you know, use information with. It's really fabulous. And there's people that are already attending from Australia and New Zealand and America. So, and someone from Greece.
Wow.
Yeah. So you guys will enjoy it.
What are the dates of the next course, Debra?
January. Let me just look. January, I think it's the 19th. Is that a Saturday? Isn't that terrible? January 22nd and the 29th.
Cool. Any other questions for Debra tonight?
I hope you guys enjoyed it.
Yeah, this was great. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
All right. If anybody has any questions about clients, NLP, anything else tonight, we still have some time left. We still have 20 minutes. Ask away if you have any other questions about any other things. While you're thinking of questions, I always think of this as convergence. The ideas converge. So when Deb had those 4 circles up there, the mental, the physical, the spiritual, I always think of the convergence of ideas. You know, I immediately in my eyes saw the 3 circles around NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. And You're still sharing your, yeah, there you go. Thanks.
I wanted to show you that one. Yeah.
Yeah, the physical, emotional, spiritual, and mental. And it's a great lens to look at anything we do. When Tara talks about Tanya and Tara talk about the 5 healing levels, it corresponds and maps over there. In NLP, we talk about the 3 minds and 4 bodies. There's this interconnection of everything. It's like the teachings of the Tao Te Ching.
Yeah.
All right. Questions?
Hey there, everyone. I'm finishing up dinner. Debra, thank you so much for this.
Very welcome. Thank you.
I really appreciated it and learned a lot. I do have a question about the heart. So I have read Tom Cowan's Human Heart, Cosmic Heart, and I'm curious if you or anyone here is familiar with that and what you think of it.
I'm not, but I would love to read it. So plop it in the chat so I can actually write it down, because I love reading new info.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yes, I appreciate it. I love new stuff like that. Did he say anything different in the book that you can remember?
So one of his main kind of points is that the heart, a lot of what you're saying, has a spiritual dimension, and it's not necessarily primarily a pump. Like there's a lot more going on here. So a lot of resonance with what you're saying.
It's awesome. It's great to hear.
Did you see the note in the chat, Debra? Tara Guzzo's been using Heartmath for 5 years in her ND practice. Beautiful. Congrats.
Oh, that's awesome, Tara. Thank you.
And if you guys are watching, my wife multitask with something like some giant Lego pieces.
Human heart, cosmic heart. Okay.
Beautiful. Other questions or comments tonight? Tara, do you want to say something tonight?
I just want to thank Deb. I'm just so glad that we were able to do this and set it up. And I encourage everyone and anyone who can to take this course, because it will just really, really add to all of the toolbox that you have already. And it's such a beautiful course to take. So thank you, Deb.
Thank you, Ted. It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. We're all in the same energy field, right? We're all in the same healing and finding, not only for ourselves but for others. You know, what else can we do? What else can we give? Yeah.
And I like what you said about mid-go. You said it subscribes to the NLP presupposition, the person with the most flexibility, behavioral flexibility controls the system. And, you know, Tara and I, since we've started our practice, have encouraged people to go study with other people. Right? We send a lot of our original grads. That's how I met you. I had 4 grads. Tara and I had 4 grads on that master prac down in and we believe that creates richness. Tara has met through the Andreas group people who have done 4, 6, 8 master pracs with other trainers. Just because everybody has a unique skill set they bring. You know, somebody may come from the spiritual side, somebody may come from the energy side, and they perceive and see and use NLP uniquely and beautifully.
100%.
So there's always so much to learn. So thank you for tonight, as Tara said.
You're welcome.
Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. I think that's what you know, both of you just said then is just so true. I know myself too. Like even studying in you guys, I've been in your classes and stuff. I love it, right? Because you learn in one of my classes just recently, I had other trainers in there because they're getting different perspectives. But I attended last year in COVID, I attended a training that I was told by somebody else. And here is this person who wrote the book on sleight of mouth, and I got to meet him and learn from him. So we're learning from so many. And Tara, he had interviewed Connie Ray Andreas, which was like, you know, it's like a small world of people when we're all in this healing and wanting to make things better. We really are all connected, all interconnected to each other.
And as a coach, you know, a lot of times we get stuck, and one way of getting out of your stuck state is to get another coach and say, hey, I'm stuck, help me out. But another way to get out of a stuck state is just to engage somebody like Debra and take a different learning, because it moves you from the place you're in most of us get in a stuck state because we're repeating a pattern or a behavior. And so when you go on a new and different training with a new and different group of people, as you said, you bump into new energy, and it often gets us unstuck. We become inspired in the company of other people. Right? That is the biggest downfall of COVID, that, and when Tara and I were in Africa, the Swahili word Ubuntu says you can only be human in the company of other humans. And even on this medium, we're together, but it's not the same as being together. So yeah, I miss it.